Hello, Phoenix Elementary. My name is Megan Bickert, and I'm a resource inclusion special education teacher over at Whittier Elementary School. So today I'm here to talk to you about providing different accommodations and scaffolds for students during online learning. Whether it's a student with an IEP, a student that's learning English, or just a student that might need a little bit of extra support, these are going to be supports that you can embed throughout your time online to help them access the curriculum. So we'll be going over how to embed different supports into G Suites like Google Slides or Google Docs. And then we'll also be talking about different extensions that you might use. And then we'll briefly touch on the different programs that our district has and how you can provide different accommodations there. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I hope you enjoy. One support that can have a huge impact on students' ability to access the curriculum is reading aloud to them. So that's reading aloud directions, maybe reading aloud a passage to them. Sometimes we have students partner read if they're not able to maybe access that text quite yet. So I'm going to show you how to embed audio into Google Slides. This would also work in Google Docs. There are several extensions that have text-to-speech features. But in this case, I know I do a lot of screenshots of the passages for students, and it won't typically pick up this kind of a text because it's an image. Same with a lot of the graphic organizers that we use, because they're images from either Benchmark Universe or wherever. It won't read the words in these different pieces because they're images. So what I like to do, and there's, again, several extensions to support with this, I use something called Cloud Audio Recorder. I'm sure there's a million out there. This is just what I like to use because it saves it directly to your Google Drive. So in this situation, I maybe want to read each of these paragraphs out loud for a student so that they can go back and listen to it again. So even if we read it in class together, I want them to be able to go back in this text and listen to it independently if they need to. So in order to do that, I'm just going to press start. I record my reading. When I'm done, I press stop, export as MP3, and then save to Google. Now I want to rename it so that I can find it easily. And I'm going to just call it Solving Problems, Paragraph 1. I need to make sure I hit change, just something that's going to help me identify it quickly. And I can save it to my Google Drive. Now, I can go straight ahead and embed that into my text. I might go ahead and record all of my paragraphs at once, whatever's easiest for you. So in order to embed that audio I just recorded, I need to go to Insert at the top of the page, Audio, and then here it is, right from my Google Drive. And it pops up just as this little button. Now, of course, this is something you'll have to teach the students to use. You need to explicitly show them. If you get this little icon, that means you can listen. And so this is just a feature, again, where you can read the passage out loud to them so that they can reference back to it. You can read maybe the different parts of an assignment. You can read aloud directions to them. You can read aloud a writing prompt. You can do a lot with this feature that can help students just understand what they're supposed to do and help them access the assignment. Another fairly simple way to support students during online learning is to provide different visuals for them. So in the classroom, we have a lot of anchor charts that we hang up that students can refer back to. We might pull up images to help them understand different vocabulary words. So it's just bringing that same idea into their assignments. So for an example, I pulled out a few vocabulary words that I think my students might need to know in order to help them understand the text independently and help them with their assignment. So here I just pulled out those words and I found definitions, and now I want to go find a visual for them. I just like to Google natural disasters, and find an image that I think the students, first of all, might find interesting, but also shows them what that word means. So I'm just going to simply copy and paste it into Google Slides. And I can go through and do this for each of them. Within assignments, you might add them off to the side if you want as well. So I just put a little box around the word, put the definition and a visual for them right there so they don't have to go from slide to slide even. Another way to add a visual is you can create a new slide and insert a photograph of maybe an anchor chart that you've used, or if you have digital anchor charts, you can insert that there. In math, you can do a multiplication chart if a student needs that, or maybe one of those fraction equivalency charts. So you can kind of get creative with, what you have in your in-person classroom and how can you bring that into the online setting, especially for students that maybe need and rely on those different visuals. Graphic organizers can be a pretty powerful way to support students during online learning, especially for students that struggle with executive functioning skills or maybe that struggle with writing. So graphic organizers help students break down assignments into smaller steps and can help them organize their thinking. So there's several different ways you can do this. You can create your own graphic organizer, maybe using shapes that are just in Google Slides already, and you can format it different ways. That's one example. Obviously, I would have to format this a little bit differently. But I also know that a lot of schools use thinking maps, so you can embed those into here, or your different programs. So for an example, I know that Discovery Ed has these different graphic organizers you can use. I can just take a screenshot doing Control-Alt for the screen and bring that over to the document. And then with a little bit of formatting, cropping it down so they don't see everything. Just there. I can also, this can be a way for them to demonstrate what they've learned. You can go ahead and add different text boxes. I like to say type here. And that allows them to type into each section. So this is one way that you can support students in your classroom. Sometimes with graphic organizers, you might want to type in certain parts for them and have them fill in the rest. But this can be a great way for students to help students conceptualize different information that you're trying to get across, or to help them prepare for a writing assignment. Sentence stems are a great way to support students with their writing while online. They can be used to clarify information, they can be used to summarize information or respond to questions, and giving the students a structure to share what they know in a complete sentence. So what we can do online, especially in like Google Slides or Google Docs, is you can simply embed it into the assignment. And that's why this is probably one of the simplest scaffolds you could incorporate into your Google Classroom. So here you can just give keywords maybe if you want for them to get started. You can also add a text box off to the side with different suggestions instead. So if you feel like maybe a student doesn't need it directly in the text, but maybe they would take a look at a few different options, you can include some off to the side like this. And then you can keep adding a couple more if you want. So again, this is just a way to add a different support for students that maybe struggle with writing, maybe struggle with kind of putting all of their ideas together. It just gives them a little more guidance and that extra support. All right, so now I would like to show you how you can provide support for students through the different online programs. The first one I want to jump into is going to be Benchmark Universe. Now, from what I've seen, most teachers like to assign the consumables for students. Now, the consumables are great, but it also includes 3 weeks worth of readings, which can be very overwhelming for some students. So what I like to do is actually customize it a bit so it's for each week. So I'm going to just have a text that is Unit 1, Week 1, and I'm going to save this because I'm going to make sure that I have just the pages that the student will need for week 1. So when you click on this little arrow, you can actually come and delete the pages that you don't need. And so I know this is going to be the end of week 1 because I've already looked through it. And I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these pages now. Now, as I went through and I deleted all those pages, I decided, you know what, I have a student that might also need a video to help them with some of these terms or with some background knowledge. So I can actually go ahead and add a page, and I can add a blank page for them to take notes on, but I can also add a video page. And here I can just type in the URL or copy and paste the URL of a video that I may have found on YouTube that goes over the same topic of this unit. And so you can see here, it's going to embed a video for the student. So this is one way that I like to make it just a little bit more accessible for some students. When I'm done editing, I can close that. And then I've got this right here, Unit 1, Week 1. And I can click here to add to assignment, or I can add it to a bookshelf if I want to share it with other teachers on my campus. One thing about Benchmark Universe Online is it's also important to show or explicitly teach the students the text-to-speech feature. So it's great because you can show them up here that they can have it read it to them.
Benchmark Education Company proudly presents Texts for...
Okay. All right, so then as you can see here, there's our video we added. Now the student can actually have this read to them, but it's important to teach them how to use these skills at the top.
Short read 1. Remember to annotate as you read.
Solving Problems by Lisa Benjamin.
The students have access to change the audio speed. They can stop it. They can turn on and off annotations. So this is a great resource for students that may struggle to read this independently. I love that it highlights the words as they go along. Also in Benchmark, you can assign students to read different leveled books. So for an example, let's say I have a student who's reading a level C, but I still want them to be focusing on the same content that we're talking about in class. So I know that we're on Unit 1. I'm going to take out 4th grade. So Unit 1 Level C books, and remember this is going to be all kindergarten through 6th grade, are going to be right here. Now I can go ahead and assign these to individual students. So let's say I want to add this one to a student, add to assignment. You know what, because I already have it over here. So let's say I want to add this one, Helping Friends. I'm going to add that to the assignment. And so now I have this for one of my students. I fill out all of the information that I need. And then I have no students here at this point, but you can actually select the specific students that you want to send these books to. So that's one way to go ahead and differentiate and provide leveled readers for some of your students. All right, so we adopted StudySync this year for our 7th and 8th grade ELA courses. And what's neat about this is you can actually adjust the proficiency level for students. So if they're at grade level, you don't need to change it at all, but there's different levels for English language learners. And then there's also a below level and a beyond level. So this below level allows our students some access to some different scaffolds. I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like right now. So we're going to see from a student's perspective what this might look like. So you can see here, they've got a text-to-speech component. So again, explicitly teaching students to use this tool is going to be very helpful as they go throughout their time online. Then StudySync also has this kind of neat scaffolds tab when it's turned on. So you can turn this tab on and off, but it's only going to be for certain students that are indicated. So if you have students that maybe struggle a little bit more and need maybe a little more support, this is a great option to have on for them. So here you can see there's just vocabulary. It gives them some different prompts to figure out what these different words mean. And then there's also different speaking frames to help them discuss the text. So just like sentence stems to help guide their conversations. And there's scaffolds throughout usually. So here we have another scaffold where it gives them just some kind of ideas on how to attack whatever the assignment is, including sentence starters, different prompts to help them think through the prompt, but just some really great ideas to help students. You can do a split screen mode, which I think is really fantastic because it allows the student to have access to the text and then also be able to write so they don't have to go back and forth. You can also add numbers here so it's easy to reference, paragraph 1, paragraph 2. So these are just a couple things. We have some grade levels that will be using Discovery Ed's tech book this year that has some really great built-in accommodations. So one, of course, is text-to-speech. And remember, we need to explicitly teach students how to do this because it is a little bit trickier than the others. But they simply highlight the text that they want read to them, and then they have this speak text piece, and then they're able to change what that looks like. So you go to this little piece here, the settings button, and it can highlight the text. You can pick what word the color or what color the words are. And there's several different options. They can change the rate and speed. It's got automatic scrolling. This one right here, this enhanced text visibility, I'll show you what this looks like. It kind of is like almost a Disney sing-along where on the bottom it pops up the words so they're nice and big. But that can be a great option for students too. But they don't have to, they don't like it that way either. But they control the settings for what their text-to-speech is. So I'll show you what that looks like. So you highlight the area they want to read and speak text.
In his spoke Leviathan 1651, Hobbes wrote about the need for a social contract between governments and the governed.
Okay, so that was kind of that Disney version, I guess you could say, where it makes it nice and big. But there's also, let's go to the settings again, and you can take that off if students don't want that on there.
In his spoke Leviathan 1651, Hobbes wrote about the need for a social contract between governments and the governed.
So students have their own control over their text-to-speech features, which is really great, especially for these older students. They also have the ability to change the reading level. So there's a level A, which I believe is a little bit higher, and then they can reduce it down if they want it a little bit lower. So again, you have to explicitly teach students how to do that. There's also the text available in Spanish, and it does do the text-to-speech as well, so they can listen to the tech book in Spanish, which is great. All right, so those are just some of the embedded supports within social studies. I know they've got different graphic organizers and different things built throughout it, but I thought that text-to-speech was really great. So Select and Speech is an optional Google extension that you can add to your little extension bar up here. And it's pretty simple. You go ahead and the students can select what they want to have read aloud. You can copy that. And then they come up, click on this little play sign, and they paste what they wanted to read.
You asked us, why do we love junk food?
Now it is a computerized voice, obviously, so it might not be the best, but it allows students to listen to things or listen to a passage that maybe doesn't already have the text-to-speech feature in it. But what I think is kind of neat too is if they just have struggles or difficulty with certain words, so maybe they don't know how to pronounce this word, they can copy that and go just word by word if they want to.
Designing.
And so that allows it maybe for students that don't need to listen to the entire passage, that just need help kind of figuring out certain words. So that is one extension that can come in really handy for students specifically that maybe have difficulty reading or decoding longer words. Another great extension for students to use, or even for teachers to use, is just Google Translate. So you can add this as an extension. So you add to Chrome, add extension, and then you can go ahead and translate different articles or whatever you might have on different pages. So in this case, I'm going to click on my extensions, click on Google Translate, and I can either put in a certain phrase or words, but I can also just translate the whole page. And this is what I think is kind of magical, actually. So if I click on that, I want to translate it to, let's say, Turkish. And now this article is all in Turkish. So just another quick trick for you if you have students that are learning English, or if you need to communicate with parents, this can be a quick and easy way to translate things. Another great extension for you to use in Google Classroom is called Talk and Comment. Now this allows teachers or students to leave audio recordings for different comments. And so this can be in Google Classroom. This can be, I think, in Google Docs and a few different items as well. So all you have to do is, once you download it, it puts a little microphone right here for you. Click on it. All right, don't forget to do your homework tonight. And it gives you this link. All you have to do is press OK and copy and paste it where you want to leave the comment. I like to take out that little voice note part. I can post it. Now, if you give it a second, usually this will download to become an actual little box that will play. There it is. Click on it. All right, don't forget to do your homework tonight. And then that's a great way to share announcements with students so that everyone can access it. If you need to maybe leave verbal feedback or verbal directions for students, this can be such an easy way to just embed it right there. Another great extension for providing verbal feedback and comments is called Moat. And this one's super simple, especially for Google Docs. So all you have to do is, once it's downloaded, you just add a comment, and then it's going to have this purple M for Moat, and then it will allow you to record your feedback. Don't forget to add a period at the end. All right, and so now all I have to do is press comment, and it transcribes it for me, and then the student can also listen. Don't forget to add a period at the end. So it may not be perfect transcription, but it allows students to either read or listen to the feedback that you give. An interesting extension for some students that maybe get overwhelmed with the amount of reading is something called Too Long Didn't Read. Now, this is an extension that basically summarizes articles found online for students. And it's maybe not the best summary in the whole world, but it can allow some students to at least access the gist of what was being read. So I might encourage my students to use this maybe after reading to double check and see if they kind of came up with the same thing, or maybe you use it to read before to prepare them for what they're about to read. But it's super simple once they download it. They simply click on the too long didn't read. It sometimes takes a minute, and it develops this little summary. Sometimes there will be different ways and different formats, and you can make it. So this was obviously a very short summary. You can make it a little bit longer, and then obviously longer. So depending on kind of the student and their ability, they can change the length of it. And then there's some pieces where they check kind of the reliability of the article, and it gets a reliability score. So this is a great one for students that maybe get overwhelmed with too much reading, and they can use it to kind of double check on their own understanding, or just use it in place of the full article. All right, that's all I have for you today. I hope you found some strategies and tools to help support students access the curriculum online this year. So good luck and have a great 2020-2021 school year.